الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الحبيب المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، قال سبحانه وتعالى: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. قال سبحانه وتعالى: والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون. وقال سبحانه وتعالى: سارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة أرضها السماوات والأرض. وقال سبحانه وتعالى: ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين. وقال سبحانه وتعالى: ومن أراد الآخرة وسعى لها سعيها وهو مؤمن فأولئك كان سعيهم مشكورا. Respected ulama, my respected elders, my brothers, my sisters and my little ones, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. After praising the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations on Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, I begin as always by first thanking you, my host, for giving me this opportunity to convey the message of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accepts these efforts of yours in listening to this message, as I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accepts these efforts of mine in delivering this message. My friends, not long ago I came across an article. It was a speech delivered by a Miss Carlton Fiorina, Chief Executive Officer of the Hewlett-Packard Corporation, delivered a few weeks after the 9/11 attacks. In this speech, she was talking about the once upon a time followers of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm going to read part of this speech to you. This is what she had to say. She said, there was once a civilization that was the greatest in the world. It was able to create a continental superstate that stretched from ocean to ocean and from northern climes to tropics and deserts. Within its dominion lived hundreds of millions of people of different creeds and ethnic origins. One of its languages became the universal language of much of the world, the bridge between the peoples of 100 lands. Its armies were made up of people of many nationalities, and its military protection allowed a degree of peace and prosperity that had never been known. The reach of this civilization's commerce extended from Latin America to China and everywhere in between. And this civilization was driven more than anything by invention. Its architects designed buildings that defied gravity. Its mathematicians created the algebra and algorithms that would enable the building of computers and the creation of encryption. Its doctors examined the human body and found new cures for disease. Its astronomers looked into the heavens, named the stars, and paved the way for space travel and exploration. Its writers created thousands of stories. When other nations were afraid of ideas, this civilization thrived on them and kept them alive. When censors threatened to wipe out knowledge from past civilizations, this civilization kept the knowledge alive and passed it on to others. While modern Western civilization shares many of these traits, the civilization I'm talking about was the Islamic world from the year 800 to 1600, which included the Ottoman Empire and the courts of Baghdad, Damascus and Cairo, and enlightened rulers like Suleiman the Magnificent. although we are often unaware of our indebtedness to this other civilization, its gifts are very much a part of our heritage. The technology industry will not exist without the contributions of the Arab mathematicians. My friends, may Allah give her hidayat, for I'm sure you will agree. In this day and age, she is very rare. She is from amongst the few that speaks the haqq, that speaks the truth. Indeed, my young friend, these were your forefathers. Indeed, these were the Muslims, and indeed, these were once upon a time the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When such was the condition in Europe that the ladies, barons and princesses could not even read or write, you know, your forefathers, the people that you belong to, the people that you are affiliated to, your roots, your forefathers were the beacons, they were the lighthouses, they were the torch bearers, they were the epitomes of guidance. Your forefathers were the world leaders. They were leading the whole of mankind in every aspect of life. Your forefathers excelled and excelled, and still further excelled, so much so that your forefathers were hundreds of years ahead of their own time. Tell me, my young friend, which century do we live in? Come on, guys, it's not a difficult question. Jazakumullahu khair, ahsan al-jaza. At least we've got, mashallah, a genius in front of us. May Allah accept. The 21st century. Your forefathers had products in their bathrooms and hygiene practices in the 10th century, which is over 1100 years ago, which could so easily compete with the products that you have today now in your bathroom in your house. In the 10th century, they even had a wudu machine, which you don't have to this very day. It was mobile. It was brought before a guest. The guest would tap the head. It looked like a peacock on a tray. The guest would tap the head, and water would come out in 8 short spurts, enough to perform wudu. Compare that with the sink and tap of today. In the 13th century, 800 years ago, the likes of Al-Jazari had already made numerous clocks of all shapes and sizes. You believe that the first Big Ben is the one that's in London. That's not the first Big Ben. The first Big Ben was built by your forefathers in Fez, Morocco, Maghrib. Starbucks. The first coffee house in Europe appeared in 1645 in Venice. Your forefathers were drinking coffee hundreds of years before this, as it had been discovered by a man called Khalid as he grazed his goats on the slopes of Ethiopia. Abu al-Hasan Ali ibn Nafi, nicknamed Ziryab, he was the one that introduced the concept of a 3-course meal. Before that, the Europeans didn't even know what a 3-course meal was. Before the 10th century, your forefathers had already laid the foundation of trigonometry and algebra. When it came to agriculture, S.P. Scott states that the Spanish Muslim agricultural system was the most complex, the most scientific, and the most perfect ever devised by the ingenuity of man. 1100 years ago, your forefathers were manufacturing paper. They were building dams. They were building windmills. Allahu Akbar. Abbas ibn Firnas had made a flying machine. It was the first machine capable of carrying a human being in the air. They were designing great buildings. Who can forget the earthquake-defying minarets of Sinan in Turkey, which did not even collapse even after an earthquake? Who can forget the New York of the 9th century?